Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and this fall along, we're going to take a look at interface endpoints. So, interface endpoints allow us to establish via our VPC a secure connection to resources within the AWS network. A great example of using interface endpoints is imagining that we launch our EC2 instance into a private subnet, and we want to use Sessions Manager in order to connect to it. For Sessions Manager to work, the EC2 instance needs to be able to reach the Sessions Manager's IPv4 endpoint. A NAT gateway could be used, but also an interface endpoint could be used so that it can securely talk to Sessions Manager. So I think that would be a really good example for us to do here. And I think maybe this would be a great time to launch up our instance here in a private subnet. So I think that we can basically use this NACL one that we have from before, as it is totally fine. The only thing is that we're going to have to configure it to be a little bit different and choose a private subnet. And so that's what we're going to do here. For this one, we'll actually just launch it into one of the private default subnets. I believe that we do have a private one. So let's go back into VPC and take a look here. If we go here to subnets, or are these all public? I mean, we have 3. So that makes me think that we do not have a private subnet. So what I'm going to do is actually create a new VPC for this case. And we'll do this, and we'll just say interface endpoint. I'll just say int endpoint example. And we'll give the CIDR block of 10.10.10.10.0.0.0.0/16. And we'll stick with no IPv6. We'll just do IPv4. I'm going to have one availability zone. I want 0 public subnets. I want to have 1 private subnet. I do not want a NAT gateway in this case. And I actually do want an endpoint, but not a VPC endpoint. So we'll leave that alone for now. And I'll go all the way down below, and we'll go ahead and create this VPC. Once this VPC is created, we'll view the VPC. And now that the VPC is created, we can go ahead and launch our instance. So we do have this script here, and I think this one is sufficient enough to utilize. We'll have to swap out some of these default values because they're not going to work because these are for a VPC that no longer exists. But we can swap that out pretty easily. So what I want to do is just download this file. And I'm going to go off screen here to my downloads folder. Just give me just a moment. And by the way, if you saw me having issues with clicking in other videos, that mouse is completely broken, and Bako brought over one of his cheaper Logitech mouses, so you won't hear any more complaining from me from now on in the videos, so hopefully that's a bonus here. But again, looking for that downloads directory, I'm not sure why I'm having such a hard time here, but I found my template YAML, and what I'll do is open up a new tab, and we're going to make our way over to CloudFormation. And we'll go ahead and create a new stack. I'm going to upload from a template, and we're going to drag that on here. And what we're going to have to really do is be very careful to actually replace these parameters, right? So this will be my interface int endpoint EC2. So we know what this is for. And we need to go ahead and grab our new subnet. So we have a private subnet somewhere here. It's going to just be this one. Let's just make sure that it actually is private. It should be. We told it to be. And the way we know is that it's not going to auto-assign IPv4. So just understand that you can launch instances, and they could be technically private. But the other thing that makes this private is that it should not have a route out to the internet. And so that's probably something also that we might want to take a look at. But first, I'm just going to go ahead and copy that subnet ID. And we're going to go ahead and paste it on in there. The other part of it is we want the VPC. So it'd be nice if the VPC was right here. It is right there, so I'm just going to cheat and grab it from here. And we'll replace that down below. And T3 Micro seemed to give us less issues. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to T3 Micro, because if it goes into that CA Central 1D, it's going to give us problems. And I don't want problems here today. The other thing is, I'm just thinking about this for a moment. Yeah, let's take a look at the route tables, because again, I just want to make sure that it doesn't have a route out to the internet. So checkbox on that. And notice that we have a route, and there is no internet gateway. Okay, so there's no internet gateway. It's not going to make it out to the internet. And because it's not auto-assigned an IPv4 address, we'll treat that as a private subnet. We'll go ahead and hit next. We'll go all the way to the bottom, hit next. We probably have to checkbox this IAM permissions thing. We'll go ahead and hit submit, and we'll wait for our deploy to finish. This is supposed to launch up a web application. We have all the ports open, so everything is accessible. And it should already have the SSM role attached, as this script here, it does. It has that Amazon SSM Managed Instance Core. So the goal here is we'll launch up this EC2 instance, and we're expecting that when we try to use Sessions Manager, it's not going to work, okay? So I'll see you back here when it's done spinning up. Just hit that filter there if you're having those issues, and we'll be back here. Why is it not... we're not seeing anything. We're maybe it's still launching. Hold on here. Did CloudFormation mess up? We're CA Central 1. Usually it would show us this by now. Oh, okay. It's creating the instance profile. But yeah, it will take a bit of time here to create the instance profile. Then the instance will spin up. But we'll wait patiently and see you back here shortly, okay? All right, so after waiting a little while, looks like our EC2 instance should be up and running. We'll make our way over to the EC2 instance itself. And just double check everything is a-okay. There it is, down below here. And so we should not be able to establish a connection, because if we go here, it says we cannot connect your instance. So what I'm hoping for is by creating a endpoint interface that we will be able to resolve that issue. So let's make our way over to VPC, as that is where these are created. And on the left-hand side, we should have something that says VPC endpoints or endpoints. If you can't find it, just type in endpoints. It should be here on the left-hand side. If it's not, it could be under the EC2 console. I can't always remember where things are. You know what? I think I just saw it a moment ago. Endpoints right here. Now, endpoint services, if you want to create your own service as an endpoint, but we just want to create an endpoint here today. And the idea is that we want to use this so that we can establish connection. Now, we notice that there's already one for EC2 Instance Connect. But my understanding is that we could use this with Sessions Manager, an elastic network interface that allows you to connect to the resource in a private subnet, other endpoint services. So there should be, I'll go AWS service, should be an endpoint here for Sessions Manager, and that's what we're looking for. Kendra, Notebook, Studio, Access Analyzer, ACM, Airflow, App Config. Not exactly what I want. Oh, there's more tabs. That's why. Okay. I was going to be like, if that's all there is, that doesn't sound right. And so the idea is that these are all services that are being served up by AWS. Basically, they're just their endpoints. And what I'm looking for in here is Sessions Manager or Systems Manager. It could be the same endpoint. We'll just type in session. There's that. Systems Manager. The reason it wasn't that one, if I type in sessions again, because it says QLDB. So QLDB is that service, the Quadra ledger. If we type in SSM, that's going to make things a bit easier. So I think that it's probably this one here, because it's the simple systems manager. That's where Sessions Manager is. And we'll go ahead and create ourselves a VPC in our new one. Before we do, I just want to show, before we do that, how many network interfaces we actually have in that, in this particular region, which will be for that VPC. But if we go under network interfaces, you'll see that we have one, right? And so this one is the one that is attached to our EC2 instance. We'll go ahead here and just say full access here. So if we wanted to, we could apply policy to restrict it more. But the idea is that we are provisioning that, that new endpoint. And so that endpoint says that it's here. Is it ready? It says it's pending. So we're going to have to wait for that to become available. Now it is. We're going to go back here, see that if there's a new network interface. I don't see one, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not there. So the thing is that if it is something that's being managed by AWS, sometimes they don't show you the components because they don't want you fiddling with it, right? So it probably is there, but what we'll have to do is to really find out is to go ahead and try to connect our instance. But we'll go back here and hit connect. I'm doing a hard refresh because it might not be aware of it. And so it's still not working. I'm not convinced that our configuration's wrong. I wonder if we have to stop and start our instance again so that it becomes aware of that there. So what I'm going to do is just give this a quick reboot. Okay, and I'm hoping by rebooting this, that might resolve our issue here. Not yet. Just give me a moment, okay? You know, one thing that I might not have been paying attention to was when we created that endpoint, which VPC did we create it for? And we did create it for this one, so that one is the correct VPC. Let's go over to our EC2 instance, and it must be in the same one because otherwise, how would it not have internet access? And it is. And we'll go back over here. Sometimes you got to fiddle with this to get it to work, so we'll go ahead and try that again. And it's thinking. Still don't see it. So just give me a moment and let me see if I can do some research. Okay, another thing that we should probably check is to make sure they're in the same subnet. So this one is in which particular subnet? Let's take a look here. Because if they're in different subnets, it's not going to work. Because normally you'll need a interface endpoint per availability zone. So they have to be in the same AZ, I should say, not necessarily the same subnet. And so for here, I'm looking for its subnet. Probably go in the networking tab. Will save us a bunch more time here. CA Central 1A. So we go back to our endpoint. And does it tell us which subnet this is in? Subnets. We have no subnets attached. So this is where we're running into our issue. We'll go ahead here and select our first one. And there actually only is one, so that's pretty straightforward. Designate IP addresses. Sure. Oh, no. We'll just let it choose whatever it wants. There could be another option with like DNS. I'm just seeing if there is anything else here. I don't think so. So maybe that's all that we were missing. Let's go back over to here. And we'll try to connect again. Also, has this finished deploying? It's pending. So we'll give it a second here to finish, okay? Probably what it's doing now is, now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably now setting up the ENI. So let's go take a look and see if there actually is going to be another ENI. There is. Okay, great. So it was my mistake. I thought that when we first launched it up, it would automatically add an ENI, but it looks like we have to manually add the ENI. I don't remember it being like that before, so I'm not sure if it's changed, but this is the way we have to do it now, I guess. The other thing is that we might need to consider is the security group. So we have a very promiscuous security group that allows for everywhere, but this would be a case where if they were both in the default, then they would share the same thing, or you might have to add this and say allow from default. So, you know, we don't need to do this, but what we could do is go to edit here, and we could add a rule and explicitly say, let's add the default one. And that would be here. So we just say all traffic. But again, we're already adding all traffic anywhere, so that's not necessary, but just as an example of what you could do. Let's go back over here and see if it's available. It says it's available now. We're going to go back over to the instance, and we're going to go ahead and connect. Come on, it should connect. it's definitely in better shape. So it makes me think that I'm still missing something. So let me take a look, okay? Okay, so one thing I did is I rebooted this, but it still is not working. And so one thought I had was, let's take a look here and at the endpoint. So the policies show that it has full access because that is something that it could be. The other thing is that it has to do with security groups. Now, the thing is that we are allowing access from our EC2 instance from default, but does default allow us access the other way? And so maybe this is where our issue is. And what we need to do is update our security group to either use the same, this endpoint to use the same security group, or to allow this to work with, or just attach the default one on here, because I believe we can attach multiple security groups. Let's go ahead and try to change security groups. And so what I'm thinking is we'll just associate the default one, because if we do that for the EC2 instance, then in theory, that would be another thing that it needs to have to do. So I'm hoping that that is the case. Fingers crossed here. We're going to go ahead and try to connect. It still doesn't work. Wow. And this is a really common thing, to be honest. I always struggle with sometimes getting Sessions Manager to connect in private ones, but it just takes fiddling until you get it. So I guess just give me another moment, okay? Another thing I'm thinking of trying is just taking down the entire instance and bringing it back up, because I'm just not sure if it's aware that it can reach out uh, to that instance. And the other thing that we can do is just check and make sure that this instance has the role. It does. So it really, really should just work. Now, this is frustrating. IPv address, good. Details, good. Same everything. Private DNS enabled, sure. It says private DNS as well. Okay. But my other thought is that I need this to maybe use the default security group. So what I'm going to do here, if I can even do this, I'm going to grab this and I don't know, because we'd have to then go edit our script. I'm just trying not to have to do any coding, which might be impossible in this case. So I'll go ahead and hit period. We'll just go ahead and open this. Doesn't seem like there's any way around it here today. And we'll create ourselves a new file or a new folder. We'll call this interface endpoint. And I'll just go ahead and make a new template file in here. And the template file we were working with was the Snackle one. So go ahead and copy that. And so, yeah, my thought here is that we need to allow ingress for the default security group, or I guess we could just use the same one here. Another thought is what I could do. Maybe before we do that, we should try to do something with this actual endpoint here. I'm going to go back to the endpoints. Now you can just like change it so it uses the same security group, manage security groups. Or just add both of them. And we'll go back here, give this a refresh. We'll give this a hard refresh. We'll try to connect. Come on. Like, it definitely should work here. After creating a new instance, the Sessions Manager tab, etc. doesn't give you the option to connect. Create an instance profile. That already exists with Sessions Manager. That already exists. No error, but still can't connect. Error about missing SSM agent. Well, what error are we getting? To connect to the instance, the Session Manager requires an IAM instance profile. You can create an instance profile and assign it to your instance using that. If you still can't connect to your instance or receiving an error, including an SSM agent, see troubleshooting. What if I click on this? Does this do anything for us? Or is this junk? I think this is just junk. This is just junk. No error, but still can't connect. Quick connect. In configurations, host management. Okay, let's try what it's telling us to do here. It said host management under here on the left-hand side, maybe. Because this is where Sessions Manager is on the left-hand side. It said host management. Not sure I said that. That was a session created the other day, so that's not new. Preferences. No. Sessions. What? Can we actually select it from here? The SSM agent on the instance supports Sessions Manager, but the instance is not configured for use with Sessions Manager. Verify the IAM profile attached to the instance includes the required permissions. But the instance is not configured for use with Sessions Manager. Well, it definitely is because it has that role attached. Again, we can go check it again and just maybe make sure I didn't do the wrong one here, but I'm pretty certain that this is correct. We'll go here. We'll checkbox this. We'll go to down below to our role. We'll check our role. Our role has Amazon SSM Managed Instance Core. That is exactly what it needs. There should be nothing fancy in the trust relationship for that to work, so that is all fine. Let's go back to these instructions, which are useless. In the Systems Manager homepage, choose the hamburger menu to open the navigation page and go to Quick Setup. In Configurations list, choose Host Management. So that's this here on the left-hand side. Hosts. That is not what I wanted it to do. Hosts. Management. That is not here. They are full of baloney. Let's just click back here. We'll carefully follow their silly instructions. So it says, quick start, hamburger menu. Tell me if you see a hamburger menu. I sure don't. Maybe we have to hit the get started here. Host management. This quick setup will makes it easy to configure instances with the AWS agents, but it's already pre-installed. We don't need the agent installed. Update Systems Manager agent every 2 weeks. Launch Amazon EC2 launch agent. Update the EC2 launch agent once every 30 days. I don't feel like we need to do any of this. So this is not useful advice. And also the instances aren't even showing up here. Manual. I guess we're saying all. We'll go ahead and create. Now I got host management, which I don't really want to have, but I guess I have it. It says it's running a deployment. We'll refresh here. It says 3 pending. I don't even see host management here on the left-hand side, so I'm not exactly sure what this is supposed to do. It says 4 pending. We'll give it a bit of time, okay? It says it succeeded. I don't understand why it says 1 success, 4 pending, so I guess it must be going through more things. I'd like to know what those things are. Three pending. I guess we'll just wait. Okay, I think I might know what the issue is. Now, this is doing other stuff, and honestly, I don't think this stuff is going to be that useful. It can keep doing what it wants to do here, and we'll just kind of ignore it. But I think the issue is that we don't have enough endpoints. So we did add an endpoint interface endpoint for Sessions Manager, or sorry, Simple Systems Messenger. But there is other stuff that we might need to communicate to, like EC2 messages or SSM messages. And so maybe by adding those two other interface endpoints, will we actually be able to establish a connection? So what we'll do is we'll go over to VPC. But now you can see, like, if we need to have 3 just for a single AZ, that's going to get really expensive really quick. But we'll find out here by doing it. So go ahead and create a new endpoint. We'll say at AWS, we're going to type in SSM. And we're going to choose messages, and we'll choose our VPC, and we'll choose our first one here, and we'll choose the same subnet, and we'll just checkbox on both of these so our life is a lot easier. We'll go ahead and create that endpoint. And then we'll go and create another endpoint. And I'm going to go down here and type in SSM. And there should be one for EC2, or it could be like EC2 messages. There we go. And we'll go ahead and create that endpoint. Sorry. There we go. And we'll choose our VPC. And we will checkbox this and drop this down. And we'll checkbox on these and we'll create the endpoint. So now we have 3 endpoints. So maybe with all those darn endpoints, it'll work. We can go back here and take a look at what this is doing. Whole bunch of nothing. I mean, he told us what it was going to do. It's going to try to update the SSM agent. Hopefully it's not mucking up with our instance. We'll go here. We'll attempt to connect. And it's still complaining. We'll give this a nice refresh here. Come on, come on, let us in. This is crazy. Now, the other thing is that we should be able to see this in managed. It's like a thing for seeing ones that are being managed. That would probably be under, I thought it used to be called managed instances. Maybe Fleet Manager, that's where it is now. They always change things on me, so it's a little bit hard to locate it. You have unmanaged instances, so I'll go here. Configure default host is what we've been trying to do. I'm not sure if this will ever get configured here today. We'll go back to Sessions Manager. Try this from this direction. Well, we don't want to start this this session. That's an old session. Still can't do it. What a pain. Just awful. Let me try some other things, okay? Now, it is suggesting that these are being managed, so maybe we can go ahead here and just launch from here. Connect, start terminal session. Not connected. Can it connect from here? Oh boy. Another thing we can do is take a look at that security group again. Maybe there's something wrong with that. Back to our default one for our new one. So this is which one? Can't really tell which is which. Even if, like, just one thing we want to check here, it's for everything, right? All and all. Well, that's out to the internet, outbound rules. Okay. I'm gonna go back to this one here. I mean, we checkbox this. This is all for everywhere. But that's outbound to be the same port. So this one says from anywhere and also from anywhere. Interesting. Let's go back to our endpoints. Something's gonna click at some point here. We'll go to our endpoints. Let's double check our security groups. Yep. Yes. Yep. Go back to our instance. Connect. Frick, I don't know. Okay. If we go back over to Sessions Manager, one thing I'm really curious about, because I was just thinking of another case, is like, is Sessions Manager always in US East 1? Because if it is, that could also be our problem. Not that I don't know how you'd end up creating endpoints that were not there, but let's go to Systems Manager. Is this regionally specific? It is. Okay. We go back to our endpoints. See Essential 1. Yeah. 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 Apparently there's another endpoint that it could possibly be. So like if we go back to our endpoints here for a moment, it's suggesting in repost, I have it on my other computer here, but for the SSM message, this one is specifically for This one is specifically for if you, this endpoint is required if you're connecting to the instance through a secure data channel using Sessions Manager. I mean, I thought that's kind of what we were doing, but maybe that's not exactly what we're doing. Another one that we didn't include was just plain old EC2. It says here, if you're using Sessions Manager to create a VSS enabled snapshot, which I don't think we are, you need to ensure you have an endpoint to the EC2 service. And then for the EC2 messages, use this endpoint to make calls from SSM agent for Systems Manager service. And then we have the endpoint for the Systems Manager service. So we have all these endpoints. And the other thing I thought is like if we had to reboot it, that might resolve our issue. But it has not done that so far. So I think what I'm going to do is go back and adjust the script. Because I think maybe by having the same default VPC, our life might be a little bit easier. So I'm going to go back and adjust this. So instead of having this security group here, I'm just going to take this off here. I'm just going to look for SG. And for this, we just want to specify the group ID. And that is the default one. I'm not really sure which one is the frickin' default because I can't tell. But we'll go back over to here, to the security group, and we'll just grab this one. And I'll go back over to our code, and I'll paste that on in here as such. Oh, that's the reason why it was spinning up a public IP address, but we definitely do not need one, so I'll take that off. I'm going to save that, and what I'll do while I'm here is I might as well just update some of these values, so I don't have to do this later. We'll go here and grab this one and paste it in. And then we'll go grab the subnet and grab this in. My only thought is like when we reboot it, the SSM agent should try to establish a reconnection, but I just want to rule that out and get rid of our security group so that we don't have to worry about that. We don't need a user data script here, so I'll take that out because that's also, this would never work because it doesn't have an outbound connection. So could this also be the issue? The fact that we have that user data in there and it could be maybe causing the user data to fail, but I don't see why because the agent should start up on its own. And it did say the agent was installed, so I'm not exactly sure why that would be an issue. I guess switch this over to T3 micro. So that is now updated. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and delete our EC2 instance. Before we do, we might need to disassociate these security groups here. So let's get rid of this one. And we'll go to this one here, to this security group, and we'll manage it. And we'll get rid of this one. And then we'll go to this one here and get rid of this security group. And we'll do the same thing. I'm going to go back over to CloudFormation. And we'll go ahead and delete this stack. All right. It's interesting that when we set up the host management that it has it over here in the quick setup. So we can take a look at this, which is good because then we can tear it down later on if we don't want it. I wasn't exactly sure what it was setting up, but apparently it was setting up a bunch of associations and a document. I know these things are an issue. I don't think they cost anything, so I'm not too worried about it, but we will tear it down later on. And so we'll let that delete, and then the idea is we'll download our template, and we will try this again, and hopefully we might have better success. Okay, so we're going to go back over to our stacks, and I need to download this file here, so we'll go ahead and download that. And we'll make our way back over to here, and we will create ourselves a new stack. And we'll upload that file. So just dragging it on over. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And this will be EC2 for, what are we doing? Interface endpoints. And all our values are updated, so we're in good shape. We're going to go ahead and hit next. I'm going to go all the way down the bottom, hit next. And we'll say I acknowledge. And then hopefully this time we'll be in better shape. Okay, so we've deployed this, and we'll take a look at the CC2 instance and confirm that it is in the same default security group, and make sure that that security group would allow communication with each other. One thing that we did change was to make sure it did not sign a public IP address, because we don't need one. So that should be fine. It is going to default, so that is good. And last time I checked, anything within default's allowed to communicate with each other, so that should be fine as well. Let's go over here and take a look and see if we can establish our connection. Can we? Really? Does it work? It looks like it works. This is how we log into EC2. We do sudo su to switch users. Otherwise, we are not the user we want. And so we were able to get into it. So yeah, there we go. I guess it required a bit of finessing. If you were ever to do this for real, you would obviously want to set up all of these endpoints in your CloudFormation templates, because configuring this stuff manually is a pain. And there's always some uncertainty as to what is working and what is not working. So, something that we should have done is gone here and actually added the endpoints here and tell it to add dependents for this. So I think that would be the only thing that I would do a little bit differently here. If we wanted to, we could tell ChatGPT and say, hey, write that stuff in for us and make sure that template gets deployed. I'm not going to do that. If you want to do that, we can call that your homework. So let's just go ahead and clean up. I really thought I would have to start over this video, but hey, sometimes things turn out better than you hope for. So we'll go ahead and, well, I won't terminate it from here because that's not necessary, but what I'll do is go over to CloudFormation, and then we will go ahead and tear down this stack. We'll wait for that to finish, and then we'll tear down the quick setup. We'll try to actually just tear down them both at the same time. Once that's done, we have to get rid of our endpoints as well as our VPC. So I'll be back here in just a moment. Actually, just thinking about it, we don't have to wait for these to go down. I'm going to go ahead over to VPC and just delete those interface endpoints. You really don't want those sticking around because they'll add cost, but hopefully it made it very clear that it wasn't just one endpoint, but we had to have 3, and wow, that just adds up in cost. We'll go ahead and delete these VPCs. We'll say delete, and their ENIs should supposedly get deleted with them. We'll only know when everything is teared down. This is still deleting, so we'll just wait a little bit here, okay? All right, so now we can go over to our VPC. And if there was any ENIs, I think it would actually complain and say, hey, you have some ENIs, you gotta get rid of these. Looks like it's going to delete our resources here. Excellent. I'm gonna go double check our ENIs. Which is under EC2. So over here, I'll also just check security groups. I don't like having security groups lingering around, so if we can, let's just get rid of some of these other ones. They add up really quickly, so anytime you can get rid of security groups you're not using, do so. And there's no ENI, so this is perfect. Okay, great. So we'll see you in the next one, and hopefully you learned a lot.